I think today I might just have the easiest job in the world, and that is to sell you, who are a petrol head, this, the AMG CLK 55. Now there's a reason that I think this is going to be particularly easy, and number one is, who doesn't love a pillarless coupe? I mean, just look at this thing. Look at the actual shape of it. It's actually a stunning car. It's driven by these wheels, the ones at the back, the correct wheels. And if I haven't sold it to you yet, then I think this will. The 5.4 litre hand-built AMG Mercedes V8, built by Joachim Schmidt, no less. It's got 367 brake horsepower. Now, anyone who's watched this channel for any length of time knows that I own a W209 CLK, which is this, the second generation of CLK that came out in 2002. I'll make no bones about it, I think they are fabulous cars. I really love mine, and I enjoy driving it whenever I get in it. Whenever I come home from filming any other car, I'm always happy to get back in my CLK. And today, I'm in what was, when this car came out, the ultimate version of the CLK, the AMG 55. Now, later on, there was the 63, there was the 63 Black, there was the DTM, there were all these crazy versions of the CLK, but this was the first. This was the one that a lot of people kind of forgot about. But why is that? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's still a barnstorming car with 367 brake horsepower and a top speed of 155 miles an hour, limited. But of course it got a little bit overshadowed by those other cars that came out later. But that's good news for the likes of you or I, because this car, when it came out, was £58,000, which was the same price as a Porsche 911. And in today's money, you're talking £105,000. So now they are looking at a little bit of a bargain, because these cars can be had for, you know, £10,000. Half the price of the 63, the later version of this car. So the W209 CLK came out in 2002, and it replaced the old W208, and it was a lot more sophisticated than that earlier car, which had recirculating ball steering. This car has multi-link rear suspension and rack and pinion steering, so it's far more sporty and up to date, even in its basic form, like my car, the CLK 200. So it's better in the corners. It's more of a driver's car than the CLK ever was in its first generation. It's got a very subtle AMG body kit on it, which actually looks even more subtle due to the fact that later on in its life the CLK kind of got that more shouty front grille as standard. So in the end this car actually just kind of looks like an ordinary CLK now. It's got nice AMG alloy wheels on it, which have been refurbed in for graphite colour, but they are the original wheels, 18-inch. It's got super wide rear tyres, so that kind of gives it away a little bit. 255 section tyres at the back, 225 at the front. It's got a little spoiler and some side skirts, and there's obviously the AMG badge on the back and a twin tailpipe which have got AMG written on as well. You do also get an AMG logo on the lovely triple dials, as well as AMG kick plates and a little badge on the seats. All in all, it's actually a very subtle design. You know, it's a very sleek car, and it still looks very pretty, even in this AMG traditionally more masculine form. The eagle-eyed amongst you, those who know a little bit about what these cars look like as standard, will notice there are a couple of subtle, should we call it OEM plus, modifications to this car. They are that it's got the facelift grille and rear lights, which look a little bit more modern and sporty. The alloy wheels are obviously refurbed into a sort of darker colour, a gunmetal colour. And a little ease of life thing here is the flappy paddles on the back of the steering wheel. They're normally like these little buttons which feel like computer keyboard keys, and they're quite hard to find when you're steering this car into a corner around the Nürburgring or whatever. You need your little wider paddles to grab hold of, so it's had these bigger paddles added. It's still very much a luxury car, because obviously that's what you want when you buy a Mercedes, whether it's an AMG or not. You need all of the things that you get in a luxury car. You want all of the electronically adjustable everything, like the seats and the headrest and the lumbar support, the heated seats, the cruise control and the automatic wipers and automatic lights. And it's just a really nice car. Everything about the way they designed it, you know, from the pillarless design, the seatbelt butler that hands you your seatbelt over your shoulder, little headrests at the back which flip away when you press a button on the dashboard. The 5-speed 5G-tronic automatic gearbox, which again was in every other Mercedes, but in this car it's just that little bit snappier. AMG have tuned it in a way that it changes gear a little bit faster. These cars, they drive really well. They're very much a sort of GT car, but with a little bit of a sporting edge to them. It has that AMG sports suspension on it. It's firm, yes, but once you get onto a sort of higher speeds and things, it really smooths out. You can see that this car on the motorway is, you know, it's perfect Autobahn, 155 mile an hour limited cruiser. As you tip it into a corner, you can see that that suspension is well set up to give you a fun drive, and that's what you want from an AMG. 34 miles an hour, put my foot down, and it just goes immediately. You don't need to use the revs, it's just like the power's always there. It's almost like electric in its performance, but in a good way, not like an electric car, which we don't want to talk about. Torque's there from 1,000 RPM. You can feel it when you accelerate up a hill, when the engine's just ticking over. It just pulls away. It's got that power and torque, and it's just so nice. It was also the F1 safety car back in 2003, and that tells you what you need to know, I think. So for the Mercedes nerds amongst us, the engine is known as the M113, which is quite happily known as the most reliable engine, along with the 3.2 V6 in the CLK. It was a very, very well built engine, unstressed, because they actually ended up putting a supercharger on it and adding loads more power, and it was perfectly capable of doing that in the DTM version. There's nothing really to watch out for with the engine. It's naturally aspirated, there's no turbos to go wrong. But as long as it's cared for, they'll do the miles. There's people who've commented on my other videos, you know, they've got AMGs that have done 200,000 miles. This car's coming up to 100,000, and it's, you know, it's just run in, as people say. What's really going to cost you, of course, is the fuel consumption, which, you know, you're going to get 20 miles per gallon if you... I later found on, shall we say, a less spirited drive, it is easily possible to achieve 25 mpg, and I suspect if you take a long motorway run, 30 is possible. If you have a CLK 55, please do comment and let us know your experiences with the MPG and the car in general. You need to get it serviced at a Mercedes specialist, because what I've learned over the time really with my CLK is that it does need someone who understands the intricacies of what Mercedes needs. Things like, oh, make sure you use the right oil filter, because otherwise the oil pressure won't be correct and then that will cause damage to the engine, or make sure you use the correct viscosity of oil or the correct type of oil. This type of front suspension arm and not that one, because this particular pattern part made by Lemforder is good and this one made by insert name here is crap. One of the things with any of these CLKs, especially the ones with sporty suspension, is that they do sort of routinely eat suspension arms. It's got relatively complex suspension up front, not air ride or anything like that, but you will have to budget for replacing suspension arms and stuff. And of course you'll have to budget for replacing tyres. It eats the fronts and the rears because it's got a heavy engine up front and it's rear wheel drive. The same tyres on my car, and they were £600 for Michelin Pilot Sport 5, which is, you know, the sort of tyres you want to get on this car. But the V8 engine has 16 spark plugs, and that can be a bit of an expensive thing to get done. So if you buy one of these, check to see if there's any history for the spark plugs. If you want to know exactly what to look for on the CLK when you're buying one, then Sam from SPR, who owns this car, so thank you Sam so much for lending me, he's done a full buyer's guide on this car, so I will leave a link to that in the description. Well worth checking out. With it being a Merc of that early 2000s period, it does have a fair few little quirks and features that you get in all of those Mercedes. For example, you've got this multifunction stalk which does everything. It turns the wipers on, it does your indicators, it does your wash wipe, it does your full beams and so on. You've got the handbrake which you put on with your foot, so it's not really a handbrake, it's a foot brake. Then take it off with your hand on the right hand side of the steering wheel. It's actually got 2 cabin filters, so it doubly filters the air. Now that's quite a fancy thing for the time, you know, like maybe you get things like that now in Teslas and stuff, but Mercedes got there first. Because the CLK 55 was the pre-facelift CLK, you do get that sort of pretty naff interior in terms of the buttons. The actual interior itself is really nice. It's quite plush, it's quite well built, robust. The door handles are solid. You've got this like lovely leather everywhere, including this like ruched effect on the door here. All the electronics, you know, the buttons and things, they're all a bit kind of cheap feeling, and now they fixed all that for the facelift, but of course the facelift version of this car is the CLK 63, so it's a different car. It's functional and it's actually all held up really well. It's a lot better than some other manufacturers of the time. I think these cars get a bad name thanks to the S-Class of the time, which had a much more flaky kind of interior. This car's got 99,861 miles on it right now as we speak. Can't really hear any creaks or rattles. It's actually really solid car, and it's the same with my car as well. It's still good after all these years. It's pretty practical because you've got a cup holder that pops out here, a little secret cup holder in the dashboard, a great big glove box with the 6-disc CD changer in it, which was awesome back in the day and pointless now. And you've got this multi-function armrest / center console cubby storage. You've got a nice big boot at the back which you can fit all sorts of stuff in, and the seats fold down as well so you can get longer items in. So what AMG did do in this car up front is put these massive bucket seat leather chairs in. They're really nice and adjustable. You can adjust them with the airbags inside them, so you can get the bolsters just right, you can get the lumbar support just right. They move backwards and forwards with electricity, they're heated. But because they're very wide, and this car wasn't really designed to have them in here, where the seat belt is stored here in between the seat and the edge of the thing, it wears away at the leather, and you do have to be careful not to like slam the door and get the buckle caught anywhere. Where these little adjustable seat bags are, because basically whenever you sit in this car and move your leg, it just pops the little switches off. Sam, the owner, got fed up of replacing them, so he's just left them off now. So backseat JJ is obviously very familiar with the back seats of a CLK, but we better get his opinion on this AMG version. So what do you think of the back seats, mate? Well, mate, I don't know if you've got the seats set particularly far back for you, but I do feel a little bit lacking in legroom right now. If I sit up straight, my headroom's not ideal, but you know, I am used to sitting back here, and shorter adults or children would fit fine. I reckon you should buy one of these, JJ. Sounds amazing. The V8 sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah, I'm not really sure on that one, mate, because I can't really afford the fuel to get to location and stuff if I was always filling up this V8 with the 98 RON E5. But it's a nice thought. I mean, I would quite like one of these. Cheers for that, mate. Thank you. It's a future classic, if not already a classic, because there's going to be nothing like this. I mean, there is nothing like it now, you know, nothing with such a massive naturally aspirated engine, nice and simple in all the areas that count, but complex enough that it feels like a modern car. It's still luxurious and usable every day if you can afford the fuel. It's brilliant, I love it. And it's really made me want to try a CLK 63, so if anyone's got one of those, please, you know, get in touch and we can get it on this channel. Now, I've been doing videos on the CLK now for 3 years, so if you've been watching all this time and you've enjoyed the videos, then please do consider leaving a super like or buy me a coffee down the link below. If you want to see more videos on the CLK, then they're going to be up there. And yeah, just thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.